Hi guys, Mrs. Pin here with episode number 4 of Mrs. Pin's Pinball Podcast. And tonight we're going to be talking about a few different things. Dr. Pin and I have been talking a lot lately about things that I can discuss on the podcast and how we can keep it a little bit different from all of the other podcasts that are out there. And one of the things that we've talked about over many meals and on many date nights, I know it's so exciting, is that a lot of podcasts out there have special segments where every week they discuss the latest and greatest in pinball or, pinball conferences. And I think that everything that I've listened to on pinball podcasts with Dr. Pin is really amazing. And everybody else who does this makes it look so incredibly easy. And as I'm trying to figure out a way to keep this legit, I'm realizing that it's kind of a special talent to be able to talk on a recording to people that you have no idea who they are, and everybody's listening to you and kind of hearing you talk about something that they enjoy as well. And it's not quite as easy as I initially thought. So anyways, we have been talking about the ways that we can keep this podcast a little bit different. And I know that the fact that I am giving you opinions and stories about pinball from a woman's perspective kind of makes it different in and of itself. But I also want to keep the themes within the podcast a little bit different too. So we have been discussing a couple of different things. We want to do some segments. I want to do some segments. Dr. Pin helps me with all of this. So he's kind of like my pinball liaison. And one of the things that we have been talking about is to keep up the Pinball for Dummies portion of the podcast, which basically allows people who don't necessarily know much about pinball to learn more, and allows the rest of you who know a lot about pinball to fact check me and let me know when I'm not accurate about things. So that's one of the things that we're going to keep doing. I'm going to try to keep that segment of the podcasts a little bit shorter, just because I know that the majority of the people who are out there listening to this podcast would already know a lot of the stuff. But the other things that I'm going to focus on, I'm obviously going to continue telling all of our ridiculous pinball stories. We are total pinheads in our family, and we have had some serious adventures playing pinball around the state of Pennsylvania where we live. And they're honestly kind of hysterical. And if we can't laugh at ourselves for being so ridiculous, then I don't know what we can do. So we might as well tell our stories to other people. That's going to be the second sort of segment in some of the podcasts. The third section is the one that I think I'm the most excited about. And we really wanted to continue with the theme of women in pinball. So initially we were talking about some of the ways that we could do this, how we could focus on different women who are out there doing really cool things in the pinball community. And I said, oh, well, we need to start up a group like Real Housewives of Pinball, and Dr. Pin laughed at me and told me that I was a little bit crazy. So when we were out to dinner one night, we were dying. We were laughing so hard trying to think of a really amazing acronym to represent the segment of this podcast that would kind of highlight different women in pinball and their roles and what they're doing. That's super cool. So we went through so many different options. Real Housewives of Pinball was one of them. Then we were like, nah, that's not cool enough. That doesn't cut the mustard. So then we talked about WHIP, Women in Pinball. Then we were laughing because the podcast from Australia has this crazy, ridiculous acronym that is apparently really dirty, and I don't even want to say it because I'm blushing. But so we kind of got into the gutter side of our minds, and we thought maybe we could call it DEEP, like Damn Excellent Executors of Pinball. But then we decided that didn't have enough to do with women. So then I was like, well, okay, what about SHOP? We could call it Serious Housewives of Pinball, but that didn't really work for us. So then we were trying to think of a way to add a little bit of crassness to the acronym, and we thought of STOMP, sexy something of motherfucking pinball. We couldn't decide what the T would stand for, and there were some gutter options, but we decided that we weren't going to do that. So we decided ultimately that we were going to call the segment relating to women WOMP, WOMP, and WOMP stands for Women of Motherfucking Pinball. I mean, could you get it to be any better? So we're also going to do a WOMP segment, and I'm going to start doing some research onto the really awesome women that are involved in this. I guess it's a sport, a hobby, a pastime, I'm not sure. But so that's going to be part of the pinball segment. So tonight, I know that one of the things I want to continue doing is telling you about all of the ridiculous adventures that we have in pinball. So I thought that I would tell you about my very first pinball tournament. So last fall, Dr. Pin was so excited to go to a pinball convention in York, Pennsylvania, which is maybe about an hour from our house. And it's the White Rose Game Room Show pinball convention. And we had never been to a pinball convention before. And my daughter had school and my other daughter had dance and, you know, all of the craziness of during the week life. And so Dr. Pin was like, well, listen, I'm going to go out after work. Why don't you come out with us and bring the girls? And so, you know, we've got these two kids. We've decided we're going to call them the Pincess and Pinderella because they are two little divas. We love them to death, but holy drama. Anyway, so we had Pinderella and the Pincess to deal with, and what ends up happening wherever we go to play pinball is that this first and foremost was Dr. Pin's hobby, and we've kind of the three of us girls have kind of been dragged along for the ride, and which has been awesome. But the one main problem we run into is that we go to play pinball or go to a conference about pinball or go to watch people play pinball, and we're dragging along our 5 and 7-year-old kids, and that isn't always awesome. It is very hard for them to sit still, and as much as they are into pinball with us, their attention span for pinball is not always the greatest. So on this particular day, Dr. Pin was like, no, you have to come. We bought special t-shirts. We are totally into the gimmick when it comes to going to festivals and conferences. And so I had a Mrs. Pinball shirt. The two girls had their little pinball princess shirts, and Dr. Pin had some pinball shirt. And so we take two cars to go out there, and Dr. Pin goes out after work, and I pick up the girls, and we go out, and we get stuck in traffic. And it just was like, I should have turned around because it was really ridiculous. And I was like, oh God, this is going to take forever. But I didn't. I plowed through, and we get to the White Rose Game Room Show, and we parked in the wrong spot. We got lost on the way. We had never been to this fairgrounds where they were holding it. The kids' bedtime was in like an hour and a half, and we were an hour away from home. But it ended up being a pretty awesome conference. And this is where I played in my very first pinball tournament. We were walking around, and this guy comes over the loudspeaker, and he's telling us that this is a women's only tournament, and if you want to play, that all you have to do is report over to the Purple Star Balloons. And I was like, hot damn, I can do that. So Dr. Pin, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm entering. He was like, yeah, go for it, babe. Go for it. So he takes the kids. I walk over to, it was an older machine called Fire. And it had, I had never played it before, and I'm not honestly very good at pinball, but I was like, well, hell, I might as well give it a shot. So there were probably 20 of us who played in the tournament, and I crashed and burned. I am talking epic fail of pinball proportions. I think I didn't come in last place, which I was like, hell yeah, that's good. I think it might have been third to last. I'm not sure. I didn't have the worst score though, so I was like kind of patting myself on the back. But ultimately, it was a super fun experience, and I can say that I have played in a pinball tournament and Dr. Pin has not. So that is something that I do like to give myself kudos for. And also at the White Rose Game Room Show, we also had the opportunity, all four of us as a family, to play Scared Stiff. And Dr. Pin had played this machine before, but I had not. And everybody is always talking about this game and how awesome it is. And I had never played it before. I had never even seen it in person before, just on TV or on, the YouTube or whatever. So we had the opportunity to play Scared Stiff. My kids were obsessed. I was pretty obsessed. Unfortunately, there was a huge line behind us to play Scared Stiff, so we only each got to play one game, but it was super, super fun. And I, again, got to play in this really cool tournament, so I was pretty excited. It turned out to be a really awesome experience, and Dr. Pin and I are planning on going to the festival up in Allentown, in Pennsylvania, which is, I believe, the first weekend in May. And we have a babysitter all day long, and I am so freaking excited. I made Dr. Pin a shirt that says Dr. Pin, and he loves me enough that he said he might consider actually wearing it. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, moving on to another segment for tonight, we are going to talk a little bit about WOMP. And tonight we're not going to focus on one specific person, but we are going to talk about something that Dr. Pin and I have been talking about a lot lately, which is why machine themes aren't more geared towards women and children. And I know and I realize that many of the people who enjoy pinball are men, and that a man might not necessarily be super inclined or excited to play a game like Barbie Pinball or Sex in the City Pinball. But, there are so many movies out there that I would not say are called chick flicks, but I would definitely say have more of like the, romantic comedy effect. And I'm just wondering why some of them haven't been made into pinball machines. I mean, all of the themes that have come out lately, I know Alice Cooper's coming out. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing machine. But for me, I don't really enjoy Alice Cooper. I have no idea. Like, I'll play it because I know it'll be a new machine and it'll probably be awesome. But in terms of the music, like, wah-wah. That's kind of a wah-wah theme for me. So we were talking about some of the ways that we might be able to convince the different pinball companies to get more women-focused games out there. And some of the ideas that we came up with, I think, are freaking awesome. I'm not talking about making a Titanic pinball, even though I think it has some serious potential with the sinking iceberg ship and all of that. But, things that guys would also really, really get psyched about. And some of them that we came up with were older movies that I am just freaking obsessed with. So one of the older movies that I love is The Princess Bride. It is such a great movie. It's got action, it's got romance, it's hysterical. And I'm just sitting here thinking, that is the best freaking theme for a pinball machine I've ever heard of. And I kind of thought the same thing about Goonies, and I thought the same thing about Harry Potter. I have been curious about why there is no Wonder Woman pinball machine. And these are all topics that I really feel like guys would like playing. It's not like they would be worried that their man card would get taken away if they were playing, Goonies. I understand that if it was Barbies, that maybe they might get a little razzing from their friends. But Goonies, Princess Bride, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I'd love for you to let me know what you think about these ideas and any other ideas that you guys might have about some of the different segments that we're thinking about doing and some of the, themes for the pinball machines. I would love to hear your thoughts. So leave a message on Pinside if you have any ideas for me. And I'm going to keep researching the WOMP candidates, and I don't know. We'll see where this goes, but I hope that you're still enjoying listening, and I will talk to you guys soon, okay? Peace.